Hello, everybody. My name is Johan. I matriculated in 2002. Uh, from a very young age, I knew that I didn't want to work for somebody. I wanted to work for myself. So I went and studied at Tux. I studied first marketing. Yeah, go Tux. I started studying marketing, BCom marketing. I realized a lot of the subjects I didn't like. So I ended up moving to BCom own choice, tailoring the subjects I enjoyed. So I ended up majoring in business management, marketing, and entrepreneurship. And that's just a little background. So today, um, just use the keyboard. So today, I'm part of a company called Acme Holding. We are three equal business partners. Acme Holding owns an array of companies, including Capital Craft. We own the Jimny Gathering. We own Safari Town with partnership with Suzuki. We have Lentedag, which is partnership event with Sonop. It's the biggest student festival in the country, 12,000 students every year in one day. Drumland Festival, which is a partnership event with Spookwolf. We've got Strata Nation. That's a partnership event we do with Focalistic. It's an amazing Amapiano festival. And then obviously Capital Craft Beer Festival, Millipop, and Easy. There we go. Thank you. So the reason I'm here today is obviously Capital Craft. So to take us back first a bit, I'm going to go back to 2002 when I was now at the age of 18, and you only know lager. That time in South Africa, obviously, or in the world, beer was still very, I don't want to say one-dimensional. It was just a more a lager market, unless you were in countries like Belgium, which have like a very old beer history and culture. So I went to this place called Cactus Craft, and I saw on their menu they had this other beer, and there was this beer there by a brewery called Draymond's Brewery called Altstad Weiss. And I was like, yes, but let me try this Weiss beer. And then I tasted this beer and I was like, wow, what is this beer? It's so different, it's so something else. And then obviously traveling the country a bit, I found Mitchell's in Knysna, which used to be the oldest microbrewery in the country before they closed. But and there they had like this honey ale, milk and honey. And I was like, yes, but this stuff is so crazy. Then later in my life, I had the opportunity to travel to a music festival in Belgium. Obviously, my career path then was I was working in event organizing. I was organizing events, and so I went to a festival, Pukkelpop, to go see, how the people are doing it on that side. And on that trip, obviously, there's a lot of South Africans living in the UK, and it was World Cup 2010 after the World Cup. So South Africa was very popular everywhere in the world that time. And then, I found a beer, Delirium. Obviously, I just looked at the label and thought the label looks cool. And again, you're like, oh, what is this beer? This is insane. And then obviously Lef and Ugaard. And you're like, yes, but these beers are, what do you even call these beers? And then I went to London and there was a beer, Zulu Blonde. And I'm like, but how is this possible? And then Zulu Blonde is it's actually a little brewery in Natal. And how he got how his beer was on tap everywhere in London was a big brewery that side. We're like, well, it's 2010 World Cup in South Africa. They need something from South Africa. So they found this guy and brewed his beer, that his beer was the fastest growing beer in London that year, where it ended up in every pub you were seeing Zulu Blonde beer, I mean, just to show. And then at the same time, obviously, London Pride. And then I went to Camden, which is obviously where you go if you're a tourist. And there was this little brewery that just opened, Camden Town Brewery. And that's when I had my first real, like, American style IPA. And then it was, it was just crazy. So coming back now, so this is 2010, came back to South Africa. And then in South Africa, 2010, 2011, the craft beer boom happened. It exploded. Obviously, a lot of these breweries were open already before then, but in 2010, 2012, it just something happened. It happened the same time in the UK. America was obviously long ahead of us with that because it came from America, this boom. But then suddenly all these beers, Darling Brewery, Jack Black, all these breweries were opening up. And not only were they opening up, they had sales. The sales in 28, their sales were maybe here. But in 2012, in a period of months, it went like boom, they just started selling beer. It was everywhere. It was so available. It was, you're seeing it more and more. Okay, so this is the part where I entered now, the beer industry. So I was invited in 2011. There was a beer festival starting in Joburg called Josie Craft Beer Festival, and they needed someone to help manage the brewers. So they hired me for the day to work and help them. I was good friends with the organizers. And then I met now all these people. I met Natalie from Clarence. I met all these Moritz then from Draymond's, and Mitchell's was there. I mean, at this time, all these Jack Black, all these breweries were there, but in like unbranded gazebos. A lot of them were decanting. It was like a homebrew fest almost, you know. And the only two breweries that had a proper stand was Mitchell's and Draymond's. They were like obviously years ahead of everyone else, and they had big stands. So there I met Natalie from Clarence Beer Festival. She then told me, well, she's got this beer festival in Clarence. She's struggling with the festival because it obviously, the first one was 2 years before, it was very small. The second one, suddenly, in the explosion, so much people came and she needed help from a professional event organizer. So she employed me to come to the beer festival and rework her whole layout. And still today, the layout of Clarence Beer Festival is still the layout that I made for Natalie. That was the layout that went. And then, thank you. It's an awesome festival. Then after Clarence Beer Festival, Natalie was like, Johan, you know, Pretoria needs a craft beer festival. And then, you know, I drove home and I'm like, yes, but, you know, this beer thing, it's so awesome. I mean, all the people, the brewers, everyone are so friendly. They're so interesting, all these beers and these colors. And then I decided, okay, you know what? I spoke to my team and we said, you know, let's start our own festival. We're like, yes, but let's, the first one was organized in July. And it was actually the only one that was on a different date. And we did it pretty much around my birthday, because like, we'll just do it when it's my birthday. Maybe my friends will come, you know. So that's where Capital Craft Beer Festival then started. So the first 3 years, we were at the Foot Trucker Monument. We started year one, 2,000 people sold out. Then year two, 3,500 people sold out. Year three, 4,500 people sold out. Too busy, not enough space. That's when we realized is we need to move venue. And that's when we moved to our venue. We are today at the Botanical Gardens. And then it climbed literally 7,000 people, 8,000 people, 9,000 people. Now today, every year, the attendance keeps climbing. We currently now, over 11,000 people are coming. When I say that, I mean like paying customers are coming in one day and experiencing this festival. So the festival, the point of the festival was always we didn't want to be like a German festival, because there were obviously already German festivals. We wanted to be like our own thing. So we were like, okay, but let's do, obviously we like music. We're part of music festivals. So Capital Craft Beer Festival has, it has like 3-4 stages. There's normally like 1 or 2 secret stages in areas as well. Each stage is different. It makes that people can move around. They can really, you can't have 10,000 people standing in one place. You need to pull that crowd apart. And then it's just, yeah, so it's, the festival kept growing. You can see there's been obviously over the years, I mean, Devil's Peak brought a bus a few years ago. Hoegaarden's also always there and everything. And then there you can see, I mean, it's insane. Like that's there with the guys with the trumpets. Now that's in the forest. That's the forest stage. That's the Black Labone stage. So at the festival, we only do live music. We have maybe a DJ that closes 1 or 2 stages, but we want to be a music festival with live instrumentation. So Black Labone was such an easy fit for the festival. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Black Labone. It's probably the best live evening in South Africa. It's every Thursday in Pretoria CBD. And I mean, the musicians that are playing there are the best. A lot of them come from the jazz school and they end up playing for the biggest bands in the country. So this is a list of all the breweries that have been to Capital Craft Beer Fest over the years. You'll see there's La Trappe. So 1 year, they're every year, but 1 year, one of the monks actually came and attended the festival. So the vision for the festival has been, it was first to grow in Pretoria. Then it was to grow in Gauteng. Then it was to grow it in South Africa. So now today there's people traveling from Cape Town, from Durban, from Free State, from everywhere. People are traveling to the festival. And then the next phase was, I always thought, you know, I'm sure everyone has heard of, in South Africa, there's a Africa Burn. So Africa Burn is the biggest Burning Man event outside of America. So I always think in my head, I think, but why can't Capital Craft become the biggest beer festival outside of Oktoberfest in Germany? So our goal and vision at the moment for the festival is to attract more international visitors to come. And over the last 3 years, we've really had an increase of international visitors coming, people coming as tourists. We've had, you know, we've had one of we had one of the senior representatives, Sierra Nevada was there. We had 2 years ago, the CEO of the Brew Association of America was there. We've had obviously a monk from La Trappe. He was having the best day of his life. No, he was very no, they're not silent. Remember, he's on a he's more like in the marketing side, but they have like funny shoes and long pants. It's but anyway, so we want to keep growing this festival, and we want it to be internationally recognized. We feel it can be. You know, in South Africa, we are still a very young country when it comes to our beer culture. But every international visitor that I've met that have come to Capital Craft, that have been to Fools and Fans, that have been to Beerix in Cape Town, when they leave, they're like, wow, I feel inspired. It feels, you know, it feels like we were getting so boring in our country, and I'm going home full of ideas again. And I feel that our country is an inspirational country. I mean, we are, you know, the rest of the world is freaking out on all this stuff, and we carrying on with our own vibe and our own thing. And I feel that the future of how the world is going to be one day is South Africa is a major part in that. So but now back a few minutes. Oh, let's actually share this one quickly. So here's a few statistics of the Capital Craft Beer Festival. So as you can see, like, it's a one-day festival. That one-day festival, there's this year, 1,389 people were working on the festival. I mean, it's huge. I mean, even the Tux students were pouring beer in stands. I mean, there's draft sold. I mean, draft sold, it sounds great. It sounds amazing to say 23,508 liters, but that's actually in reality one of the sizes of SAB's like smaller fermenters, you know. But still amazing. I mean, there's a good, we obviously do a lot of recycling as well. The fencing is actually wrong. The fencing we used was actually 8 kilometers of fencing gets used to organize Capital Craft Beer Festival. I mean, just electrical wire, 4.24 kilometers of cabling was used to provide power and light and everything that needed to be on the grid. I mean, it's insane if you put the numbers like that. So now back to 2013 when Capital Craft Beer Festival started. So after the first festival, we were like, yes, but this festival is so amazing. It cannot just be once a year. We cannot just stop now and wait another year. And then we're like, no, we need to open up a place. We need to open up our own place. And that's when we decided, and we were still young. We were like, I was 28, and one of my other business, Henk, my other business partner, he was like 25. We were still lighties. We didn't have money. We couldn't go ask loans from our family. So we were like, but we really want to own our own place. And we, for a long time, wanted to own our place. So we were just saving. And that's when we ended up opening up Capital Craft Beer Academy. So that's our restaurant. It's open 7 days a week. Thank you. Well, this year we won at the Tshwane Tourism Awards. We won Restaurant of the Year. We've been voted best pub in Pretoria this year on Best of Pretoria. So it's really working for us, and we love it. So this business was now the first time in my life where we had a business where we could actually, it was a structured business. It had to be open. We had to actually have, you know, there was labor law. There was actually, your accounting is now a lot more work. And it's the first business where we also started getting paid like a salary, you know, but before we were just doing events and money came in and then money goes out again. Where this was the first time we had now we're like, okay, now we have a business. So Capital Craft Beer Academy. So we always stock about 250 beers on the menu. 38 of those beers are on tap. We print the menu. The menu gets printed in the shop. The printer prints it, folds it, staples it. It changes every week. Beers are coming in, beers are going out. We obviously also have a lot of wine, a lot of gin, a lot of cocktails, a lot of whiskey. We want to be like a well-rounded place. And then food is a very big thing for us. We put a lot of effort into our food. We bake our own rolls on site. We make all our own sauces. We onion rings. We buy our fresh produce from the Tshwane market. It just hits differently. It's much better. So yeah, that's pretty much the restaurant is now also the plan for the restaurant always been we were like we want to create a space where beer can be looked after, where beer can be served correctly. It's not a place where you just drink a lot of beer and then dance. We want beer to be served in the right glass. We want it to be served with good food. We want the best is when a customer starts, they start with a lager. And then the second time they visit, they maybe try a blonde or something else. And then slowly you see how their journey goes, how they start discovering beer. And then once you've discovered all the different types of beer, it's amazing. You can't go back from that. Like today I'm watching rugby, so I'm drinking lager and it's a hot day. Then like, yes, I just got home from a long day at work. I married a beer drinker. My wife drinks beer. If you are looking one day for your future wife, beer drinkers are great. Oh, shame. Beer drinker, yeah. Shame. So, after a long day, go Stellenbosch, yeah. After a long day at work, and you only want to have one beer. I mean, nothing is better than a double IPA from Afro-Caribbean or anyone in a nice glass, and you sip your beer, talk about how your day was, start cooking. So the beer is there for every situation. So at the restaurant as well, we also grow our own hops at the restaurant. We won last year a silver at the African Beer Cup for a collaboration beer we did with Mad Giant using these hops. So it's flipping awesome. You sit there on the deck and you're surrounded by hops. I don't know who that person is, but anyway. But as you can see, look at beer, look at the glass, I mean, this is not a staged photo. This is real customers that the photographer took photos of sitting there. They're not posing for a photo. It's really amazing. There's like all the ladies from the American embassy having tequila in the cold room. But so now, obviously, this is a conference, and we need to talk sometimes about other topics as well. So for me, where are we today as a beer industry? So obviously, there's a lot of economic pressure in South Africa. And even in the world, actually, the beer sales are showing signs of shrinking. There's obviously new statistics coming out that are showing that where some are sinking, others are not. So greatness is rising and mediocrity is sinking. So a lot of places that I go to and talk to, a lot of places are growing and they're doing better and better. I mean, at Capital Craft, we seeing growth still throughout everything. And then a lot of other places are maybe suffering or other brands maybe. But for me, all these things together, it's a landscape for opportunity. You want to be the best part of South Africa is it's really a good country to be an entrepreneur. We're a third world country, which means that there's endless opportunity. There is a lot of problems or solutions that need thinkers and people to solve those things. We're in a landscape where we haven't hit the roof. We're still climbing. We're still getting there. Obviously there's parts of South Africa where the economic growth is less, but for instance, Gauteng is growing at 8% GDP every year. In Gauteng, it's growing. So for me, this is now where we are today. So a new era in beer. For me, if I see where is beer moving forward, I don't see anymore, it's not anymore craft beer and versus big beer. It's not anymore lager. And here's where you see the signs. So for me, flavor is here to stay. You can go to most countries in the world. You go into a grocery store and you can find Italian produce. You can find Mexican produce. You can find Korean produce. You can find German produce. You can find food from everywhere in the world. in most countries in the world. I mean, if you take how it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it is grocery stores were very one-dimensional. Now people have, flavors exploded. How many reality TV shows are there now just for food? Food is food. How many of you are like cooking at home and trying new things? And so flavor is now a very big part of who we are today as human beings. We enjoy to eat food, and the same with beer. Signs where you can see that flavor is here to stay. Let's say Castle. The fact that one of the probably the most legacy beer in South Africa, Castle, is making limited edition beers, making single malt beers, making Castle Tank. I don't know if anyone has ever had Castle Tank. That's probably the best lager you'll find in South Africa. I mean, Castle is taking a lager out of their bright tanks before it goes into pasteurization, and they're loading it into a truck and pumping it straight into bars, and they're giving you like probably the best. For me, it's the best lager you can get. So, and the fact that Castle is willing to, they don't need to do that. It doesn't make them money to do that. It means that they've got passion for their beer. They love their beer. They want people to have their beer and have good beer. Other examples is, let's say, Lef, Hoegaarden, Guinness, Oettinger. So at Capital Craft, in our restaurant, our number one seller is Fokhoff Lager. Our number two seller is Jack Black Cherry Ale. Our number three seller is Clarence Hazelnut Ale. Our number four seller is Guinness. Our number five seller is Lef. Our number six seller is Hoegaarden. Our number seven top seller is Oettinger. And then our next one will be our first lager back on the lineup. So I've just named, 8 beers, and only one of them was a lager. Obviously, Capital Craft is a specialist venue, but we're still a big restaurant. I mean, we're not a little niche place. It takes a lot of seats to fill that place, and customers are coming from all ages, from all places, and they want to explore different things. And that already, for me, the fact that even AB InBev, for them to have left in Hoegaarden in South Africa, that also doesn't make them really like mountains of money. They can rather just spread that everyone something else, but they're doing it because it's their legacy brands from AB InBev, and they want people to taste good beer. I mean, it's amazing beers. So then there's also obviously growing the market. That's a very important responsibility for everyone at the moment. So for me, Stella Artois. Stella Artois is for me a perfect example of a brand growing the market. Just for record, Stella Artois in South Africa was the biggest growing Stella Artois region in the world in the last year. So in the world, South Africa had the most growth in Stella Artois out of any other place where Stella Artois is. Who are they targeting in South Africa? They're targeting female beer drinkers. They are normalizing that a woman can drink beer. Our parents and our grandfathers were always said, like, no, women shouldn't drink beer. It's not classy if a woman drinks beer, or it was frowned upon. Where Stella is now saying, no, but they're pumping millions and millions of rands into campaigns and marketing, saying, but women can drink beer. And actually, women have better taste than the men, because Stella is a malt-forward lager. It's a mouthfeel lager. It's not a lager made to drink 10. It's a lager made to drink 2 or 3 in a very nice glass, the right glass. No, but it's excellent. You know how many craft brewers in South Africa are modeling their lagers on Stella? They're trying to make their lager taste like Stella Artois. So that's a perfect example of a big beer that is growing the market in South Africa. Tolokazi, obviously, you cannot have a talk like this and not mention Tolokazi. So Apiwe, obviously Apiwe is pushing for more women in the industry, but the biggest push she's doing is she's pushing for main market consumers in the middle class to discover craft beer, to discover different flavors, to try different things. And she's not just doing it by posting on Facebook. She's attending like 3-4 events a week. She's attending 3-4 markets a week, going there in her own time, pushing and pushing and pushing to grow the market. And now you can see her business. It's going now. She's now going on that slope where it's gonna speed up so fast now. Obviously, non-alc, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. But why I put non-alc there is we always think non-alc, yeah, it's for beer drinkers to have a non-alcoholic beer. I mean, I'm never going to drink a non-alcoholic beer. I'd rather drink Oros. That's just me. But, there's a lot of people who don't drink alcohol, so they've never had beer, and they actually trying a non-alcoholic beer, and they actually trying non-alcoholic drinks. So even that is introducing people that aren't maybe beer drinkers are now, because there's not many other non-alcoholic really brands or things to drink, they're trying non-alcoholic beers. And I'm sure those people are trying also a beer later and growing it there. So for me, that's still good. Okay, then collaboration. Collaboration is very important in the industry now. We are the beer industry. We want to grow beer. We want to grow the culture of beer. So associations like BASA, for instance, I mean, they funded by Heineken, they're funded by SAB, but they can't just be funded by the two big guys. More of the bigger craft brands that are growing need to climb into that basket now and also put their money down and fund BASA, because BASA is doing hard work educating people in government about beer. They teaching the people in government that beer is not just the drink that people get drunk and pass out on the floor. They're teaching it that, look here, beer is actually it's actually something that brings people together. I mean, there's a lot of great initiatives happening in South Africa. I mean, even like in the townships at the Shebeens, they're now starting to fund like kitchens and starting to fund better bathrooms so that they can turn Shebeens more into like a family establishment rather than a place where the dad goes to drink alone. So there's a lot of conception that we have to change about beer, and then that comes obviously with responsible drinking, but that's where flavor comes back. We're seeing people are not drinking, they're not drinking 20 lefts, they're drinking maybe 1 or 2 lefts because they want the flavor, they enjoy the flavor. Then contract brewing. This is a huge thing. Like we're seeing now big beer companies like AB InBev even outsourcing brewing capacity to people like Signal Hill, to craft brands, craft breweries that are able to handle more capacity. So I mean, that's a big sign. That means that people are not always fighting each other. Yes, the sales guys are fighting. That's their job. The sales teams their job is to go fight for turf and fight for sales. But in the engineering side, there's a lot of collaboration happening. Like a lot of craft brewers are easily able to phone Carl, who's the director of Newlands Brewery, to phone him and ask him for advice. And he happily gives them advice. He doesn't go, well, good luck, haha. He helps them. He goes to their brewery, gives them advice, helps them on it. And Carl's also an ex-InterVarsity student, I think 2012. And he's now the director of Newlands Brewery, Cape Town. I mean, they make all the Castle, all the Black Label for the Western Cape. That's mega. And he was sitting here in 2012, like one of you, learning these things. And then obviously education. Education is easy to say, you at this conference, InterVarsity, that's what you guys are doing. But we need to educate our friends more as well. We need to, if you're a beer lover, it's very easy for you to, every time, like I was sitting now, before the Trappers talk was started, I was sitting there and I was already telling the guy sitting next to me about Trappers beer. And it's very easy for you to also tell your friends these things. So, and all these things together, in the end, it creates a beer culture. So South Africa, there's a lot of people pushing. Apiwe is pushing, BASA's pushing. A lot of people are pushing for South Africa to have a beer culture. Once you have a beer culture, like Germany have a beer culture, Belgium have a beer culture, even America have a beer culture. We need to make a beer culture for South Africa, and we need to be proud of it. We need to call it, this is South Africa's beer culture. Why? Because 1 in 66 people in South Africa work in the beer supply chain. So every 1 in 66 people are working somewhere. Beer is in their portfolio of their job. So that for me enough says that South Africa needs to embrace its beer culture. We should, I mean, Castle is backing the Springboks. We should be backing beer in our own country, and we should be proud of it. So obviously we're not here to talk forever. So the last screen, I can though. If you want to talk more, just come see me after. I love talking about beer industry. So for me, it's very easy. beer industry is the best industry in the world. I'll give like one example. If you working in the beer industry and you need to get your car serviced, you go to your mechanic. Your mechanic is now, you're building a relationship with him. You ask, hey, Johan, so what work do you do? I say, no, I work in the beer industry. I promise you, your car will work forever. That mechanic will never mess with you. He will never screw you over. He will be like, he brags at his friends. Yes, I've got this one customer that works for SAB. He's the brewer at SAB. I mean, the beer industry is the best industry in the world. It's the one place where people are helping each other. People are phoning each other to find solutions. Even the reps, you know, when they're on the battlefield fighting for the lines, come Friday afternoon and they're all sitting there in Capital Craft drinking beers together, Heineken reps, SAB reps, Devil's Peak reps, and they're laughing and drinking beer together. It's an amazing industry because it involves, you can study any degree at a university and there will be a job for you in the beer industry. There will be a place for you in the beer industry. I found it interesting in the earlier talk when I was saying, where would you want to work in the supply chain? And that already shows you, because marketing, there's so much places that you can work in the beer industry. So we really need more of you guys studying engineering. You guys are like some of the top students in the country. We need you guys to fall in love with beer and enter the beer industry. We need you guys to solve these problems that they have, improve it. We need South Africa to make new technology that they then take over to America or take over to Europe because it's working. I mean, and the best place to do that is what you guys are studying. So really, if you're considering it, just do it. Join the beer industry. It's the best industry in the world. Currently now, the breweries are growing so fast again that they're actually struggling to find qualified people with experience. So we need people to just start so they can build that experience. And these big beer companies like SAB and Heineken, there's every person that's spoken that works in a big company says, I was first working 3 years in brewing, then I was working 3 years in production. Those companies move you around. They develop you as a full person. Those companies work in levels. They first develop you on one level, then you have the opportunity to move to the next level. And the best experience you can gain is working at these big breweries, even if it's not the salary you were hoping for as a start. But if you're there doing the job, you grow, you climb that ladder so fast. I mean, when you look again, you're here doing a presentation, or even Carl. Carl has from sitting here in 12 years become the director of the Newlands Brewery in Cape Town. 12 years, that's nothing. So it really, the opportunity is there, okay? So the recruiters are here today. You really need to go talk to these guys. Just ask them questions. That's why they're here. They've got factories to run. They've got their phones. You can see their phones are ringing the whole time. You know, go talk to them. Like, make them remember you. Like Insani said, go stalk them on LinkedIn. You know, it really is. Go see her there at Bruce's Academy. That's a very great place because their network is very big. They can introduce you to a lot of people. Okay, but we really need you guys to consider the beer industry. It really is the best industry in the world. Even your parents brag about it later. They're like, they're never proud of your job until you work in the beer industry. Okay, but thank you very much. Have a good one. I'm available for questions. Yes.
Think about the journey from starting from whatever the age 18 and then going up to the beer feast to now academy. In a very direct way. This is someone in here. They want to tap into craft beer industry in South Africa. What would be the best advice as young as they are here? Like, what would be the key things that they should look out for
So, okay, the best advice I can give you is join a homebrew club. That's the first place you meet other people that love beer. That's where you learn how to brew beer, and that's where you start meeting people at the homebrew clubs. There's people, you'll meet a guy in Pretoria. There's one of the homebrewers, Hans. He's there at the homebrew club with his beer. Then you get to know him a little bit. You ask him, so Hans, what do you do? No, I'm a surgeon. And you meet people there, but also at these brew club events, there's people like Apiwe is always attending the meetings. Now you're meeting more people in the industry. I'm, the Pretoria chapter meeting, I'm always attending there. And then you start talking about you start meeting people. That's one place. Then another place would be even start attending the conferences. Like Kinsani went to Beer Cup less than 2 years ago, or to Beerex. I remember meeting you there. I remember spotting you and thinking, who's that girl? I remember you came up to me and greeted me. That I actually thought, oh, you're probably one of our US girls already. So and watch her. She's going to be standing up here one day saying, Yana, I'm the director of the SAB brewery in Polokwane. So I would say just get involved in the industry. Go to the brew club, join the WhatsApp groups of the home brewers. There's a lot of banter there. The best part of the beer community is that it's not age driven. There's young people, there's old people. So you meet people, and even the older people, they give you like advice on, like, I love the older customers we have at the shop. They give me advice on like other things that I've been mentored by so many people older than me just by having conversations with them. And these lessons you learn from them, they stick to you, because then when next time you're sitting there, you actually like, yes, but I remember something that someone said, and maybe one day I'm like getting a car accident, and when I open my eyes, Hans is there, There was another question. That's a tough one, because the reality is that 99.9% of the industry is alcohol beer. I would say, are you saying that the establishment is anti-alcohol, that you cannot brew beer there, or are you saying that no one in the team even drinks alcohol?
Was our age would disappear. But if he wasn't, we wouldn't have age situation.
I would say, I don't want to burn Tux Microbrewery now, but they're now a new team, and I've been waiting a year for them to come knock on my door and say, Johan, we need help. They're hiding away from me. There's so many people in the industry that you literally, one thing you guys already have, most of you, is you have a connection with Apiwe, for instance. So it's easy to say to Apiwe, yes, we're having this problem. And if she says, yes, but you are University of UNISA, but have you gone to see Johan at Capital Craft yet? Apiwe will say that to you. And then she said, no, man, here's his number. Go see Johan at Capital Craft. If you are from Polokwane, she'll go like, yes, but have you gone to see Zwakala? Here's the Thuli, here's his number. Like, go see them, go talk to them. I'm sure they've got something that can offer you, or they know how they can help you. It's very important. If you guys want the beer quality of the InterVarsity to grow, because it goes up and down, you guys can't just brew once a year for this thing. You need to be brewing the whole time. The leadership is the most important thing that you guys need now. The team leader needs to take leadership and needs to push the teams to brew, And if you're struggling, if funding is a problem, or ingredients is a problem, just reach out to me or to Apiwe. I know many brewers who can assist. I mean, at one time I was even helping Tux Microbrewery with equipment that Clarence Brewery just had lying around. There's a lot of stuff around there that the people can help. There's a lot of suppliers that can help. So just reach out. I'm always available. If you guys are stuck somewhere, reach out to me and I can point you in a direction to help. But it's really important. I think the beer quality, I'm not sure how it was this year, but I really feel the beer quality can be a lot better in InterVarsity. And And when I say better, I mean that there shouldn't be like 3 or 4 that are here and everyone else is kind of playing catch up. There needs to be like the middle part actually needs to be the big part, you know? And I think this year's InterVarsity is very inspirational. I think there's a lot of new people that have never been to InterVarsity. So this is already like year 1 of coaching. You're now already learning how to enter this competition better next year. Already, I'm sure a lot of you are already saying, yes, but next year we must do this, and next year we must do this. So I can guarantee, I know for a fact next year, this competition is going to be like 30% better than what it was this year. Just by watching, well, I've seen the teams talking here and talking notes there.